If you're divorcing a narcissist, I know exactly what you're thinking. I just want this to be over. I hear that from women almost every day. And honestly, I understand it. When you're living with constant conflict, endless court dates, financial uncertainty, and emotional exhaustion, ending the divorce feels like the finish line. But here's what I want you to know. One of the biggest mistakes women make in a narcissistic divorce is confusing ending the divorce with protecting their future, because those are not always the same thing. In fact, the more desperate you become to get it over with, the more vulnerable you become to making decisions you'll regret for years. I'm Victoria McCooey, creator of She Breaks Free. My own divorce lasted 6 years, and today I help women navigate high conflict divorces with narcissistic partners without sacrificing their financial security, their credibility, or their peace of mind. Today, I want to explain why rushing a narcissistic divorce can actually cost you more, and how slowing down strategically can put you in a much stronger position. Let's break this down into 3 things. First, why narcissists often benefit from your urgency. Second, the expensive mistakes women make when they're desperate for the divorce to end. And finally, how to know when it's time to move forward and when it's worth waiting. Let's start with the first one. Why does a narcissist want you to feel like you can't take one more day? Because emotional exhaustion changes the way people make decisions. When you're emotionally depleted, you stop asking, is this the best decision? Instead, you start asking, how do I make this stop? Those are 2 completely different questions. And narcissists understand that. Sometimes they'll drag things out for months, sometimes years. Not because they're trying to win, but because eventually they hope you'll become so exhausted that you'll accept almost anything. Less support, or an unfair parenting schedule, a bad financial settlement, whatever gets them what they want. This isn't always about the legal outcome. Sometimes it's about wearing you down emotionally until you stop fighting for yourself. One of the biggest mindset shifts I help my clients make is this. Stop measuring success by how quickly the divorce ends. Start measuring success by how well you're protecting the next 20 years of your life, because that's what's really at stake. Now, let's talk about the second piece, the mistakes I see women make when they're desperate for it to be over. And I'll start with my own story, because during my divorce, we sold our house and there was a substantial amount of money sitting in escrow. My ex came to me with what sounded like a very reasonable proposal. Split the money, share the kids equally, no child support, walk away. Honestly, after everything we'd been through, it sounded incredibly tempting. I just wanted peace. I wanted freedom. I wanted the divorce to end. But something in my gut kept saying, if he's pushing for this hard, there's probably something I don't know. And thankfully, I listened, because later significant debt surfaced that I didn't even know existed. And had I accepted that offer, I would have been responsible for debt I never created. I also would have lost the ability to seek child support later. And I would have been paying for many of the children's expenses on my own, because I knew from experience he wasn't going to voluntarily contribute. Looking back, I realized I wasn't choosing between a quick settlement and a long divorce. I was choosing between temporary relief and long-term security. That's a very different decision. I see this happen all the time with my clients. Someone says, I don't even care about the money anymore, or I'll just let him have it, or I just can't keep fighting. And I completely understand those feelings. But I always ask one question. Will the version of you 5 years from now be grateful that today's exhausted version made this decision? That question changes everything. Because eventually, the exhaustion fades, but the agreement you signed may last for decades. Let's talk about the third piece. How do you know when it's worth slowing down? First, slow down whenever you feel desperate. Desperation is almost never the right mindset for making permanent decisions. Second, separate emotional relief from strategic thinking. Ask yourself, am I making this decision because it's wise or because I simply can't tolerate one more month of conflict? Those aren't the same thing. Third, get support. Not because someone should make the decision for you, but because when you're emotionally inside the conflict, it's very difficult to see it clearly. One of the biggest things I do as a coach is help women distinguish between decisions they're making from fear and decisions they're making from clarity. Those feel very different, and they lead to very different futures. Here's what I wish someone had told me years ago. The goal isn't to get divorced as fast as possible. The goal is to get divorced in a way that protects the life you're trying to build afterward. Sometimes that takes patience. Sometimes it means saying no to an offer that looks attractive on the surface. Sometimes it means trusting your instincts, even when you're exhausted. And sometimes it means accepting that the fastest way out isn't always the safest way forward. So, if you take one thing away from today's video, let it be this. Never let your desire for peace become the reason you give away your future. Slow down. Think strategically, because the decisions you make today will affect your finances, your children, and your peace of mind long after the divorce is over. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. It really helps me reach more women who need this information. Now, if today's video resonated with you, I'd encourage you to watch my video called What I Wish I'd Known Before My 6-Year Divorce. In that video, I share the biggest lessons I learned the hard way, including why trying to rush the process was only one of several mistakes I wish I could go back and change. I think it'll help you see your own divorce through a completely different lens. And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone.